The first time I heard my 3-year-old daughter ask, "Mommy, why does our ceiling drip brown water?" I knew I'd hit rock bottom. My name is Harper, and 6 months ago I thought I was making the smart choice. Fresh out of a messy divorce, broke as hell, with nowhere else to turn. Coming home seemed like the obvious move. My parents had always said family comes first, right? Blood is thicker than water and all that bullshit. I should have known better. "Harper, you need to understand something," my mother Penelope said, not even looking up from her crossword puzzle as I stood in their living room with Elise clinging to my leg. "We're not running a charity here." My father Cyrus shifted uncomfortably in his recliner, remote in hand, eyes glued to the TV. Classic dad, present but not really there. "I'm not asking for charity," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm asking for help, temporary help, until I get back on my feet." "And you'll get it," Mum replied, finally glancing up with that thin smile I'd learned to hate. "The basement apartment is available. $700 a month, utilities not included." $700 for a basement in my childhood home. "Mum, I don't have $700. That's why I'm here." "Then I guess you'll need to find a job quickly, won't you?" That's when my brother Gage wandered downstairs, looking like he'd just rolled out of bed at 3 in the afternoon, which he probably had. "What's all the noise about?" he asked, scratching his stomach through a stained t-shirt. "Harper's moving into the basement," Mum announced cheerfully. "Isn't that nice? Elise will have her own little space." Gage grinned. "Cool. More room upstairs for me then." I stared at him. "More room? You already have the entire second floor." "Yeah, but now I can spread out. Maybe turn Harper's old room into a gaming setup." "Gage doesn't pay rent," I said slowly, the words tasting bitter. "He's 29 and doesn't pay rent." "Gage is between opportunities," Mum said. "He's figuring things out." "He's been figuring things out for 5 years." "Harper." Dad finally spoke, his voice carrying that warning tone I remembered from childhood. "Your mother and I have made our decision. Take it or leave it." I looked down at Elise, who was staring up at me with those big brown eyes, thumb in her mouth. She'd been through enough upheaval. The divorce, leaving our apartment, watching her father disappear from her life like smoke. "Fine," I whispered. "We'll take the basement." Mum clapped her hands together. "Wonderful. I'll get you the lease agreement. It's month to month, first and last month's rent due up front. Security deposit is another $500. $1,900 I didn't have. This is temporary," I said, more to myself than to them. "Of course it is, sweetheart," Mum said, already back to her crossword. "Character building. You'll thank us later." The basement was worse than I remembered. Water stains on the ceiling, a musty smell that no amount of air freshener could mask, and windows so small they barely let in any light. The kitchen was a hot plate and a mini fridge. The bathroom had a shower that only worked half the time. But it was shelter. It was something. That first night, after I'd put Elise to bed on an air mattress, I sat on the concrete floor and cried. Not the pretty kind of crying you see in movies, the ugly, desperate kind that comes from somewhere deep in your chest. I was 32 years old, sleeping in my parents' basement with my daughter, while my unemployed brother lived upstairs rent-free. Around midnight, I heard voices drifting down through the thin ceiling. Laughter. I crept to the bottom of the stairs and listened. "I can't believe she actually took it," Gage was saying. $700 for that dump?" "She didn't have much choice," Mum replied. "Sometimes people need to learn the hard way." "Think she'll actually pay it?" "She'll figure it out. Harper always does. She's resourceful." More laughter. I stood there in the dark, listening to my family joke about my desperation, and something inside me crystallized. Something cold and sharp and absolutely certain. Never again. I looked back toward the makeshift bedroom where my daughter slept, innocent and trusting, and made a promise. To her, to myself. This basement ceiling would be the lowest point of our lives. Everything from here would be up. The mold appeared 3 weeks later, black spots creeping up the wall behind Elise's bed, like some kind of toxic constellation. I scrubbed them with bleach until my hands cracked, but they kept coming back. "Mommy, why does my room smell funny?" Elise asked one morning, her voice scratchy from the cough she'd developed. It's just damp down here, baby. We'll fix it. But when I knocked on the door upstairs, Mum barely glanced at the photos I'd taken. It's an old house, Harper. These things happen. These things happen. There's black mold growing where my daughter sleeps. Have you tried opening a window? The windows don't open. The cranks are broken. She sighed like I was being dramatic. I'll ask your father to look at it when he has time. Spoiler alert, Dad never had time. Meanwhile, Gage had apparently decided the entire house was his personal kingdom. He left dirty dishes in the sink for days, blasted music until 2 a.m, and had friends over who parked in my spot and left beer cans on the lawn. Can you ask him to keep it down? I said to Mum after another sleepless night. Elise has preschool in the morning. Boys will be boys, she said. Maybe you should invest in some earplugs. I was working 3 jobs by then. Morning shift at a coffee shop, afternoon cleaning houses, and weekend catering gigs. 18-hour days just to scrape together rent money while my brother played video games upstairs. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I'd just gotten home from my cleaning job, exhausted and reeking of pine sol, when I found Gage in the basement doing laundry. Excuse me, I said. I need to wash Elisa's school clothes. I'm using it, he said, not looking up from his phone. You have a washer and dryer upstairs. Yeah, but this one's closer to my room. Your room is upstairs. I meant closer to where I hang out. I stared at him. You hang out in my basement? It's not your basement. You rent it. That's when I noticed the empty pizza boxes on my counter, the beer bottles on my table. Have you been eating down here? Sometimes. The kitchen upstairs gets messy. So you mess up mine instead. He finally looked up. Chill out, Harper. It's not that big a deal. Get out. What? Get out of my space. Now. He laughed. Or what? You'll tell Mom? I was about to lose it completely when my phone buzzed. Text from Bailey, my friend from high school who'd somehow managed to become a lawyer while I was busy making terrible life choices. Coffee tomorrow? Have something to discuss. The next day, Bailey slid a business card across the table at our usual diner. Mason Ford, I read aloud. Property investment. Remember him from school? He's doing really well now. Flips houses, manages rental properties. He's looking for someone with hustle. Bailey, I don't know anything about real estate. You know about cleaning houses. You know about dealing with difficult people. You know about working your ass off. She leaned forward. Harper, you're drowning in that basement. This could be your way out. What kind of work? Property management mostly. Showing apartments, handling maintenance requests, dealing with tenants. It's not glamorous, but it pays better than what you're doing now. I thought about the mold, about Gage's dirty dishes, about my mother's dismissive sighs. Can you set up a meeting? Mason turned out to be nothing like I expected. No fancy suit, no slick sales pitch. Just a guy in jeans and work boots who met me at a coffee shop near the college. Bailey says you're motivated, he said. I'm desperate. Is that the same thing? He laughed. Sometimes. Tell me about your situation. So I did. The divorce, the basement, the 3 jobs, the mold. I probably sounded pathetic, but Mason just nodded. I've got a property management position opening up, he said. 40 hours a week, benefits, decent pay, but there's a catch. There always is. It's not just property management. I'd want to train you in other aspects of the business. Acquisitions, development, investment strategy. Think of it as an apprenticeship. Why me? Because people who've been knocked down fight harder when they get back up. He slid a folder across the table. Take a look at this. If you're interested, we can start Monday. I opened the folder. Salary information, job description, benefits package. The base pay alone was more than I made from all 3 jobs combined. There's one condition, I said. What's that? My family can't know. Not yet. Mason raised an eyebrow. Family drama? Something like that. He extended his hand. Welcome to the real estate business, Harper. As I walked back to the basement that night, past Gage's friends smoking on the front porch, past the broken windows and the water-stained ceiling, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. 6 months later, I passed my real estate license exam on the first try. "Congratulations," Mallory said, barely looking up from her computer screen. "Welcome to the Shark Tank." Mallory was Mason's top agent. Blonde, sharp-suited, and about as warm as a tax audit. She'd been assigned to show me the ropes, which apparently meant watching me fumble through property showings while she critiqued my every move. "Your closing rate is terrible," she said after my third week. "You're too nice. Stop caring if people like you." I thought customer service was important. Customer service is important. Being a pushover isn't. She handed me a stack of listings. "These are foreclosures, distressed properties. People are desperate, which means they'll try to lowball you. Don't let them." The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, learning to be ruthless in real estate while living in squalor at home. Speaking of home, Elise's cough had gotten worse. "Mrs. Harper?" Her preschool teacher pulled me aside one afternoon. "We're concerned about Elise's breathing. She's been wheezing during outdoor play." That night, I took Elise to urgent care. The doctor was blunt. "She's showing signs of respiratory irritation. Any chance there's mold in your living environment?" I thought about the black spots that kept reappearing no matter how much bleach I used. "Possibly. You need to address that immediately. Prolonged exposure can cause permanent damage to developing lungs." Permanent damage. Those words echoed in my head as I carried a sleeping Elise down to our basement prison. The next morning, I cornered Mom in the kitchen. "Elise needs to see a specialist. The mold in the basement is making her sick." "Have you tried a dehumidifier?" "Mum, this is serious. The doctor said permanent damage." She finally looked up from her newspaper. "What do you want me to do about it?" "Fix the moisture problem. Replace the windows. Get rid of the mold properly." "That's expensive, Harper." "So is my daughter's health. Maybe you should look into moving somewhere else." I stared at her. "With what money? I'm paying you $700 a month for a moldy basement." "That's your choice." "My choice? You're my mother. And you're a grown woman with responsibilities. Figure it out." That afternoon, Gage decided to throw a party. Upstairs, of course, while Elise tried to nap through the noise. I marched upstairs and found him in the kitchen with 6 of his friends, beer cans everywhere. "Turn it down," I said. "My daughter is trying to sleep." "It's only 4 o'clock, one of his friends said. "She's sick. She needs rest." Gage shrugged. "Not my problem." "Actually, it is your problem. We all live here?" "You live in the basement," he corrected. "This is my house. It's our parents' house." "Same thing." I was about to argue when I noticed something on the counter. Mail. Bills, specifically. Past due notices from the electric company, the water department, the mortgage company. "Gage," I said quietly, "are Mom and Dad having money problems?" "Why would you ask that?" "These bills," he snatched them away. "Mind your own business." But I'd seen enough. The mortgage was 3 months behind. The property taxes were overdue. The rental income from their other properties wasn't covering expenses. That evening, I called Bailey. "Can you run a property search for me?" "What kind of search?" "I need to know the financial status of my parents' properties. Liens, mortgages, tax situations." "Harper, what are you planning?" "Just research." "Can you do it?" 2 days later, Bailey called with the results. "It's bad," she said. "Really bad. They're leveraged to the hilt. The main house has a second mortgage they took out 2 years ago. 3 of their rental properties are in foreclosure proceedings." "How long before they lose everything?" 6 months, maybe less." I hung up and sat in the mouldy basement, listening to Elise wheeze in her sleep while party music thumped overhead. The next morning, I had coffee with Mason. "I want to learn about property auctions," I said. "Foreclosure auctions? All kinds. How they work, how to bid, how to finance purchases." He studied my face. "This about your family situation?" "Maybe." "Harper, buying distressed properties is risky. You need capital, you need experience." "Then teach me." "It could take years to build up enough resources. I'm a fast learner." Mason was quiet for a long moment. "There's an auction next month. Small properties, nothing too expensive. You can observe, see how it works." "I want to do more than observe." "You want to bid?" Eventually, he leaned back. What exactly are you planning? I thought about Elisa's cough, about the mold, about Gage's smug face, about my mother's cold dismissal. I'm planning to never be powerless again. That night, I found a manila envelope slipped under the basement door. Inside were property records, auction schedules, and a note from Mason. Knowledge is power. Use it wisely. I spread the papers across my makeshift table and started studying. Every foreclosure listing, every auction date, every property in financial distress, including one very familiar address. The auction was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in March. I'd been saving every penny for 8 months, working overtime, skipping meals, selling everything I owned that wasn't nailed down. Bailey had helped me set up an LLC, Sunrise Properties, so my name wouldn't appear on any paperwork. You sure about this? She asked the night before, reviewing the bidding documents one last time. I'm sure. Harper, this is your childhood home. No, I said, watching Elise colour at the kitchen table, her inhaler within arm's reach. This stopped being my home the day they charged me rent for a mouldy basement. The auction was held at the courthouse steps. About 30 people showed up. Investors, contractors, a few desperate homeowners trying to save their properties. I wore sunglasses and a baseball cap, staying toward the back of the crowd. Mason stood beside me, pretending we didn't know each other. Lot 17, the auctioneer called out. Residential property, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, plus basement apartment. Opening bid, $50,000. My parents' house? The place where I'd learned to ride a bike, where I'd had birthday parties, where I'd been relegated to the basement like some kind of family embarrassment. 50,000, called a man in a hard hat. 60, said a woman with a clipboard. 75. The bidding climbed steadily. I waited, heart pounding, until it reached 120,000. 125, I said, my voice carrying across the courthouse steps. A few heads turned. The auctioneer nodded. 130, called hard hat guy. 140, I counted. Back and forth it went. 150, 160, 170. Each bid was another nail in the coffin of my old life. At 180,000, hard hat guy shook his head and walked away. Going once? The auctioneer called. Going twice? 185, said clipboard woman. Shit. I had exactly 190,000 in my account. Everything I'd saved, plus a loan Mason had helped me secure. 190, I said. Clipboard woman hesitated, then shook her head. Sold to bidder number 47. That was me. Bidder 47. I'd just bought my parents' house. The paperwork took 2 hours. By the time I walked out of the courthouse, I was officially the owner of the property that had been my prison for the past year. My phone rang as I sat in my car, hands shaking. How'd it go? Bailey asked. I got it. Jesus, Harper, you actually did it. Yeah, I actually did it. What now? Now I go home and pretend nothing happened. That was the hardest part, acting normal. Making dinner for Elise, helping her with homework, listening to Gage's friends party upstairs, all while knowing I held the deed to everything they took for granted. 3 weeks later, Mallory cornered me at the office. I know what you did, she said. My blood went cold. What are you talking about? The courthouse auction? I saw you there. I was observing, learning the process. Bullshit. She sat on the edge of my desk. You bought something, didn't you? I didn't answer. Harper, I've been in this business for 10 years. I know the look of someone who just made their first kill. She leaned closer. What did you buy? It's complicated. Family complicated? I nodded. Mallory was quiet for a moment. You know what? Good for you. Good for me? Family's supposed to have your back. When they don't, she shrugged. Sometimes you have to make your own justice. You won't say anything? Say anything about what? She winked and walked away. That night, I sat in the basement with the deed hidden under my mattress, listening to Elise's laboured breathing. The mould was getting worse despite my constant cleaning. The ceiling leak had spread to a new corner. My phone buzzed. Text from Mason. Demolition permits take 30 days to process. Just saying. I stared at the message. Demolition permits. The next morning, I called Bailey. I need to file some paperwork, I said. What kind of paperwork? Development permits, demolition approval, zoning variances. Harper, what are you planning to build? I looked around the basement, at the water stains and the mold and the broken windows that would never open. Something better. And your family? What about them? They're going to find out eventually. I know. This is going to get ugly. It's already ugly, Bailey. I'm just changing who's in control of the ugly. 2 weeks later, the permits were approved. Sunrise Properties had official permission to demolish the existing structure and build a 12-unit luxury condominium complex. I folded the permits carefully and put them in my purse. Tonight, I'd sleep in the basement one more time, listening to my daughter wheeze and my brother's music thumping overhead. Tomorrow, I'd start making some phone calls. The eviction notices would go out on Friday. The eviction notices arrived by certified mail on a Friday morning. I was upstairs getting coffee when the postal worker rang the doorbell. 3 identical envelopes, all addressed to different occupants of the same address. What's this? Mum asked, signing for the mail. Legal documents, the postal worker said. Have a good day. I retreated to the basement before anyone could open them. 20 minutes later, all hell broke loose. What the fuck is this? Gage's voice echoed through the house. I heard footsteps pounding across the floor above me, doors slamming, voices rising. Cyrus! Cyrus! Get in here right now! I crept to the bottom of the stairs and listened. 30 days. Dad's voice shaky and confused. They're giving us 30 days to vacate. Who's giving us 30 days? Mum demanded. This is our house. Apparently not anymore, Gage said. Says here the property was sold at auction. New owner is... He paused. Sunrise Properties LLC. That's impossible. We would have known if there was an auction. Well, there fucking was one, wasn't there? I heard papers rustling, voices overlapping in panic and anger. I'm calling the bank, Mum said. The bank already called us, remember? 3 months ago, and 4 months ago, and... Shut up, Gage! My phone buzzed. Text from Bailey. You okay? Heard through the grapevine that some eviction notices went out in your neighbourhood. I'm fine, I texted back. Just listening to the chaos upstairs. Want me to come over? Not yet. Let them process it first. Around noon, there was a knock at the basement door. Mum stood there, eviction notice in hand, looking older than I'd ever seen her. Harper, we need to talk. About what? Did you know about this? She held up the notice. Know about what? The house, the auction, this eviction. I looked at the paper in her hands. Official letterhead, legal language, 30-day notice to quit and surrender the premises. How would I know about that? You work in real estate now. Property management. I show apartments and collect rent. She studied my face. You haven't heard anything? Through work? Mum, I clean toilets and fix broken faucets. I'm not exactly plugged into high-level real estate deals. She nodded slowly, but something in her eyes said she wasn't entirely convinced. That evening, Gage tried a different approach. He came downstairs while I was helping Elise with her homework. Hey, he said, unusually subdued. Can we talk? Sure. This whole eviction thing. It's pretty fucked up. Language, I said, nodding toward Elise. Sorry, it's pretty messed up. He sat down across from me. I was thinking, maybe we should stick together. You know, family and all. Stick together how? Find a place. All of us. Pool our resources. I almost laughed. What resources, Gage? You don't have a job. I'm working on that. You've been working on that for 5 years. Things are different now. This is serious. It's always been serious. You just never cared before because it wasn't affecting you. He was quiet for a moment. Look, I know I haven't been the best brother, but we're family. We should help each other. Help each other? I set down Elise's pencil. Where was this family loyalty when I was begging Mum to fix the mould in my daughter's bedroom? Where was it when you were throwing parties while she was sick? That's different. How is it different? I didn't know she was that sick. You didn't care enough to ask. Elise looked up from her colouring book. "Mommy, why is Uncle Gage sad?" "He's not sad, baby. He's just learning some grown-up lessons." After Gage left, I tucked Elise into bed and sat beside her in the dark. "Mommy," she whispered. "Yeah, baby? Are we going to have to move again?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. She was 6 years old and already expecting instability, already bracing for the next upheaval. "Maybe," I said. "Would that scare you?" "A little. But if we move, can we go somewhere without the yucky smell?" "Yes, definitely somewhere without the yucky smell. And where the ceiling doesn't drip? And where the ceiling doesn't drip?" She was quiet for a moment. "Mommy, what, sweetheart? Are we the good guys?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "In stories, there are good guys and bad guys. Grandma and Grandpa and Uncle Gage seem really upset. Are we the reason they're upset?" I stared at the mouldy ceiling, at the water stains that had been my constant companions for over a year. Sometimes, baby, it's complicated. Sometimes people do things that seem mean, but they're really trying to protect the people they love. Like when you make me eat vegetables even though I don't want to. Something like that. She nodded solemnly. "Okay, I trust you, Mummy." As she drifted off to sleep, I heard voices upstairs again, quieter now, but urgent, planning, scheming, trying to figure out how to fight an enemy they couldn't identify. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "This is Penelope. I know you're involved somehow. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. Tomorrow, the demolition permits would be filed with the city. Once that happened, there would be no hiding anymore. But tonight, I sat in the basement one last time, listening to my daughter breathe easily for the first time in months, and felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. Peace. The family meeting invitation went out on a Wednesday. I'd had Bailey draft it on official letterhead from her law firm, professional, impersonal, requesting the presence of all current occupants at 2 p.m. Saturday for a discussion regarding the property transition and development timeline. I was upstairs making lunch for Elise when Mum confronted me with the letter. "Harper, what is this?" I glanced at the paper. "Looks like a meeting request." "From Bailey's law firm. Your friend Bailey." "Huh, that's weird." "Don't play dumb with me." Mum's voice was sharp. "You know something about this whole situation. I know we're all getting evicted. Same as you. The signature on the demolition permits," she said slowly. "I've seen that handwriting before." My stomach dropped, but I kept my face neutral. "What demolition permits?" "The ones filed with the city yesterday, for this address." She stepped closer. "The signature looks familiar, Harper." "Mum, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me." Elise appeared in the doorway, eyes wide. "Why is Grandma yelling?" "She's not yelling, baby. She's just upset about grown-up stuff." I picked up Elise. "Why don't you go play in your room?" After Elise left, Mum grabbed my arm. "I know it's you." "You know what's me?" "This whole thing. The eviction, the demolition, all of it." I pulled my arm free. "You're being paranoid." "Am I? My daughter works in real estate, lives in my basement, and suddenly we're being evicted by a company nobody's ever heard of? Correlation isn't causation, Mum. Don't use your fancy words with me." Saturday arrived grey and drizzling. I'd arranged for Elise to spend the day with Bailey's sister, then positioned myself in the living room with a folder of documents and a poker face I'd been practicing for weeks. At exactly 2 p.m, there was a knock at the door. "I'll get it," I called out, before anyone else could move. I opened the door to find 2 men in suits, a city planning official and a representative from the development company Mason had recommended. Behind them stood a woman with a camera. "Ms. Harper?" the planning official asked. "That's me. We're here for the scheduled meeting regarding the Sunrise Properties development project." I stepped aside to let them in. Mum, Dad, and Gage were clustered in the living room, looking like deer in headlights. "What the hell is this?" Gage demanded. "This is the property transition meeting," I said calmly. "Please, everyone sit down." The planning official opened his briefcase. "We're here to discuss the timeline for the luxury condominium development that will be constructed on this site. Luxury condominiums? Dad's voice cracked. 12 units, the development rep said, unrolling blueprints across the coffee table. High-end finishes, underground parking, rooftop garden. Very exciting project. Mum stared at the blueprints. This is our house. Was your house, I corrected. The property was sold at public auction 3 months ago. Sold to who? Gage stood up, fists clenched. I opened my folder and pulled out the deed. Sunrise Properties LLC. Who the fuck is Sunrise Properties? Language, Gage. Don't tell me about language. Who owns this company? I looked around the room, at my parents' shocked faces, at Gage's rage, at the officials waiting patiently with their clipboards. I do. The silence was deafening. You? Mum whispered. Me. You bought our house. I bought the house that was about to be foreclosed on, yes. Gage exploded. You fucking bitch! You bought our house out from under us. I bought a property at a legal public auction. A property that was in foreclosure because the previous owners couldn't make their mortgage payments. We're your family. Family? I laughed, and it came out harsher than I intended. Was it family when you charged me $700 to live in a moldy basement? Was it family when you ignored my daughter's health problems? Was it family when you let Gage live here rent-free while I worked 3 jobs? We were helping you build character, Mum said weakly. You were helping yourselves, to my money, to my labour, to my desperation. Dad finally spoke. Harper, please. We can work something out. Work what out? You're 3 months behind on mortgage payments. You owe $12,000 in back taxes. Your rental properties are hemorrhaging money because Gage has been managing them into the ground. How do you know about... I know because I work in real estate now. I know because I've spent the last year learning how to do what you couldn't, manage property successfully. The planning official cleared his throat. If we could get back to the development timeline. There's no timeline, Gage shouted. This is fraud. She can't do this. Actually, Bailey said, appearing in the doorway, she can. The sale was completely legal. The eviction notices were properly served. The demolition permits are valid. Bailey, Mum pleaded. You've known Harper since high school. You can't let her do this. I'm not letting her do anything. I'm representing her legal interests. The woman with the camera stepped forward. I'm Sarah from Channel 7 News. We're doing a story on family property disputes. Would anyone like to comment? Get that camera out of here. Gage lunged toward her. Sir, please step back, the planning official said. This is my house. No, I said, standing up. It's not. It hasn't been your house since the day you decided I was worth less than the mould growing on these walls. I gathered my papers and headed for the door. Harper, wait, Mum called after me. I turned back. You have 26 days to find somewhere else to live. I suggest you start looking. As I walked out, I heard Gage screaming threats, Mum crying, and Dad trying to calm everyone down. The demolition was scheduled to begin in 30 days. The confrontation happened at the grocery store on a Tuesday evening. I was in the cereal aisle with Elise when Gage appeared, blocking our path with his shopping cart. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Unshaven, red-eyed, wearing the same clothes I'd seen him in 3 days earlier. We need to talk, he said. Move your cart, Gage. Not until you listen to me. Elise pressed closer to my leg. Mummy, why does Uncle Gage look angry? He's just having a bad day, baby. I tried to push past him, but he shifted to block me again. You're destroying our family, he said, loud enough that other shoppers started staring. I'm not destroying anything. I'm fixing a problem. By making us homeless? By stopping the cycle. By making sure my daughter never has to live the way we made her live. She's fine. Kids are resilient. She has permanent lung damage from the mould, Gage. Permanent. His face went pale. What? The doctor confirmed it last week. Scarring on her lungs from prolonged exposure to black mould. She'll have breathing problems for the rest of her life. I didn't know. Because you never asked. Because you never cared enough to notice that a 3-year-old was wheezing every night. Harper, please. Mum and Dad are falling apart. Dad had chest pains yesterday. We thought he was having a heart attack. Is he okay? For now. But the stress is killing them, literally killing them. I looked down at Elise, who was clutching my hand and watching this exchange with wide, worried eyes. "Move your cart," I said quietly. "Just give us more time. 6 months. We'll figure something out. You've had 5 years to figure it out." "That's different." "How? How is it different?" "Because now we know it's serious." "It was always serious, Gage. You just never had to face consequences before." He grabbed my arm. "You're being vindictive. Let go of me. Not until you agree to stop this." "Let go of my mommy." Elise kicked him in the shin. "Ow! Jesus, what's wrong with her?" "What's wrong with her is that she's learned to defend herself. Something I should have taught myself a long time ago." Security appeared. A young guy in a uniform who looked nervous about intervening in a family dispute. "Everything okay here?" "My brother was just leaving," I said. Gage looked around at the growing crowd of onlookers, then back at me. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." The next morning, Mum showed up at my office. Mallory intercepted her at the front desk. "Mum, you can't just walk in here. I'm here to see my daughter." "Harper's in a meeting." "I'll wait." I watched through my office window as Mum sat in the lobby for 2 hours, clutching her purse, staring at the floor. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Send her in," I told Mallory. Mum looked smaller somehow, sitting across from my desk in her best dress, the one she wore to church and funerals. "Nice office," she said. "Thank you." I brought something. She pulled out a photo album. "Remember this?" She opened it to a picture of me at age 7, gap-toothed and grinning, holding a birthday cake. "Your princess party. You wanted everything pink and sparkly." "I remember." "And this one." She flipped the page. "Your high school graduation. You were valedictorian." "Mum." "And this." Another page. "The day Elise was born. You called me crying, so happy." "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I want you to remember that we love you, that we've always loved you." I stared at the photos, a lifetime of moments carefully preserved, lovingly arranged. "If you loved me, why did you treat me like a tenant in my own home? We were trying to help you become independent. By charging me rent I couldn't afford, by ignoring my daughter's health problems, we made mistakes. You made choices. Every day you chose Gage over me, his comfort over Elise's safety." Mum closed the album. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing. I don't want anything from you anymore. There has to be something, some way to fix this." I looked out the window at the construction crew setting up across the street, preparing to demolish an old building to make way for something new. "The demolition starts Monday," I said. "Harper, please. You have until Sunday to be out. We don't have anywhere to go. You'll figure it out. You're resourceful, remember? That's what you always told me." She stood up slowly, clutching the photo album. "I hope someday you can forgive us. I hope someday I won't need to." Sunday morning, I drove to the house with Elise. The moving trucks were gone. The windows were dark. A for rent sign sat crooked in the front yard of the house next door, probably where they'd ended up. "Is this where we used to live?" Elise asked. "Yes." "It looks sad." The demolition crew arrived at 8 a.m. Monday. I stood across the street with Elise, watching as they set up their equipment. "Mummy." Elise tugged on my sleeve. "Yeah, baby." "Are we the good guys?" I watched as the wrecking ball swung toward the house, toward the basement where we'd lived like prisoners, toward the moldy walls that had damaged my daughter's lungs forever. The ball connected with a thunderous crash. "I don't know, sweetheart," I said, as dust rose into the morning air. "But we're free." The dust settled on a Tuesday. I stood in what used to be my parents' front yard, now just a cleared lot with survey stakes marking where the new building would rise. The demolition crew had finished yesterday, hauling away the last pieces of my childhood home in dumpsters. "Ms. Harper?" The foreman approached with his clipboard. "We're all done here. Construction crew starts foundation work next week." "Thank you." As his truck pulled away, I heard footsteps behind me. "Quite a view," Bailey said, joining me on the sidewalk. "It's something." "How do you feel?" I looked at the empty lot, then at the house next door where a for rent sign still hung in the window. Honestly, I don't know. The news story aired last night. I saw it. The local news had picked up the story. Daughter evicts parents in real estate revenge. They'd painted me as either a ruthless businesswoman or a victim finally fighting back, depending on which expert they interviewed. Your phone's been ringing all morning, Bailey said. I turned it off. Harper! I know what you're going to say. Do you? I kicked at a piece of concrete the crew had missed. That maybe I went too far. That family is family. That I should have found another way. Actually, I was going to say congratulations. I looked at her. Congratulations? You did something most people never have the courage to do. You stopped being a victim. A car pulled up across the street. Dad got out, moving slowly, looking older than his 60 years. He stood there for a moment, staring at the empty lot, then walked over to us. Harper. Dad. Can we talk? Bailey squeezed my shoulder. I'll wait in the car. Dad and I stood in awkward silence, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between us. Your mother's in the hospital, he said finally. My stomach dropped. What happened? Panic attacks, high blood pressure. The doctor says it's stress-related. Is she okay? She will be, eventually. He looked at the empty lot. We're staying at Gage's friend's place, sleeping on couches. Dad, I'm not here to ask for anything, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know that I understand now, what we put you through. Do you? Living in someone else's space depending on their charity, having no control over your own life. He nodded slowly. It's humiliating. Yes, it is. Gage got a job at a warehouse, night shift. Good for him. He says it's your fault, but I think maybe it's the best thing that could have happened to him. We stood there watching a jogger pass by, life continuing around the crater we'd all created. I failed you, Dad said. As a father, I failed you. Dad, let me finish. I let your mother make decisions I should have questioned. I let Gage get away with things I should have stopped. And I let you suffer because it was easier than dealing with the conflict. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to hear it. And because I want you to know that what you did, it wasn't just about revenge, was it? I thought about Elise, asleep in her new bedroom with clean air and windows that actually opened. No, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about making sure Elise never has to live the way we made you live. Yes, he nodded. Then you did the right thing. A text buzzed on my phone. I'd turned it back on to check for messages from Elise's school. Mommy, Mrs. Peterson says I can run the school race next month. My breathing is getting better. I showed Dad the message. She's doing better. The new apartment has clean air, no mold. She's been using her inhaler less. That's good. That's really good. Another car pulled up. Mason got out, carrying coffee and a folder. Sorry to interrupt, he said, but the pre-sales numbers came in. He handed me the folder. All 12 units, sold before we even broke ground. I stared at the numbers. The profit margin was higher than I'd projected. This is incredible. It gets better. I got a call from a developer downtown. They want to hire you as a consultant on their next project. Dad looked between us. You're really doing this. Building a career. I'm really doing this. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. Are you? Terrified of you, but proud. I almost smiled. Good. You should be both. Mason cleared his throat. Harper, there's something else. The lot next door is going up for sale next month. I looked at the house where my parents were probably staying, where they'd gone from owners to tenants in the space of a month. Are you suggesting I buy that too? I'm suggesting you have options. Dad shook his head. She's done enough damage to this family. Have I? I asked. Or have I finally balanced the scales? Harper, you taught me that family comes with conditions, that love has a price, that my daughter's health was worth less than Gage's comfort. I folded the sales report and put it in my purse. I learned the lesson. I just applied it better than you did. Dad was quiet for a long moment. What happens now? Now you figure out how to take care of yourselves, like I had to. And us? Our relationship? I thought about Elise's question from the demolition day. Are we the good guys? I don't know, Dad. That's up to you. He nodded slowly, then walked back to his car. Mason watched him drive away. You okay? Ask me in a year. Fair enough. He handed me the coffee. So, about that consulting job. I'll take it. Just like that? I looked at the empty lot one more time, then at the bright future rising from its ashes. Just like that. My daughter's never going to inherit my basement ceiling. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough.